Thank all of you for coming out. Where's your tents? This is a famous location, most recently because the people stood their ground to claim their government. And once again, we are here doing the people's work to claim our government, to claim our process of government. When I used to teach high school, I used to be proud to teach about the balance of powers and the executive, the legislative, and the executive branches. Today, if I were teaching in high school, I would have to teach about the corporate branch, because in fact, they have invaded our government and upset the balance of power. In fact, they would be the strongest element of that four-pronged equation. And that's the saddest situation that we face today. This Citizens United, which is an irony in itself that it's even called that, but Citizens United should be a wake-up call to everybody who believes in the American Constitution, who believes in our form of government. And that's not to say that we've ever been perfect. We're not supposed to be. We're always supposed to be challenging our government. We're also always supposed to be making ourselves better, continuous improvement. That's what makes a democracy strong. But we took a huge step backwards with Citizens United. But it's been a progressive encroachment into these concepts. You know, the corporations today now have a singular legal priority to make a profit. It wasn't the way corporations were founded. The priority for corporations when they were created was to describe a social benefit. That's why they had to go to the government to get approval, because they had to demonstrate what their social benefit was going to be. But over time, they have eaten away at that social benefit and moved more and more into solid ground where they can singularly focus on profit. I believe when the makers of our Constitution were talking about democracy, they were talking about a compassionate democracy, a democracy that cared about things other than just profit. Imagine if every individual made every decision when they went into the polls based on whether they thought they were going to make more money about it. Well, if that's what we're going to do, then give us that power and give us the money too. But the truth is, that is not what was intended by our Constitution. Those 5 justices blew it. They are un-American as anybody who's ever fought against America, because they are undermining our democracy. In council, I spoke about the death of our democracy. But I believe we can rise again, because I do believe in the people of the United States. And that's not to say we will always agree. 20 years in this building as a councilman, I'll tell you, we will not agree all the time, and usually we fight. But in that process, we have created an opportunity for people to rise above whatever dilemmas they are facing. And again, it's an imperfect union. So I am so pleased to see you here. I wish we could be bulging at the seams, bulging at the sidewalks with people. But the fact of the matter is, we need to educate people. And that is our challenge. Now, it's one thing to get this on the ballot. And I believe it can succeed, but it's another thing for people to truly understand it. I don't want people to walk in and say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I want them to say, where is that measure? Because I want to fight for our democracy. And then I want them to take action beyond that to make sure that this is an amendment to our Constitution that protects the next generation of folks and beyond. That's what we're fighting for here. Let's not kid ourselves. This is not a Democratic-Republican challenge. This is America's fundamental democracy against corporate interests. Well, I am simply one who has been challenging corporate interests since I got to office, even before. And that's not to say I'm anti-corporation per se. I believe that you can have a capitalist society with corporations in it. I know some of you will disagree. That's okay. But I believe they need to be strongly regulated with strong enforcement, because what is the root of all evil is the greed that diminishes the quality of life in our communities. what direction would they lead us into? Who led us into the foreclosure crisis, if not corporate interests? We cannot let the corporatists take over. You know, I talked about 2001 Space Odyssey. I see some of you are old enough to remember that. The Supreme Court, by their action in representing the corporate interests of this country, were really implementing Hal's wishes. Hal was the computer that took over the ship and decided that its interests were more powerful than the people's interests. That's exactly what's going on, folks. And that's what 2001 Space Odyssey was all about. We have to know that these interests have been moving in this direction for many, many years. Citizens United was not a dramatic shift. It was not a dramatic shift. It has been accruing over time. And so our battle is not a singular battle to get an amendment. But in fact, we have to do the hard work to undo that progressive undermining of our democracy. And that's going to take a lot of time. So I have one question to you. Are you committed to fighting for our democracy for the rest of your life? Not just today, not when this goes on the ballot, but far beyond until we go into the grave, because that is the commitment that we have to make. To save it for the next generation so that all can have health care, so that all can benefit from our society, so that we can truly find a middle-class society for even the least among us. That's what our challenge is. And so I want to say thank you to all the interested parties. I especially want to give a shout out to Angelique for coming to us and asking us to put this together. She gave it to us. The next day I approved it, and the next week we introduced it into council, and as soon as we got back from recess, it was approved. And I believe that that's the will of the people when this measure goes on the ballot. But again, our challenge is beyond that. So I stand with you. I thank you for coming out. I do want to thank Councilmember Garcetti and Rosendahl for introducing the resolution that the council has already approved. I anticipate, again, that this measure will go on the ballot and we will win this battle. But this is not the war. This is a battle. And so we have many battles coming forward. So thank you again. I hope to see all of you on Election Day celebrating someplace, whether it be here, whether it be in a tent downtown, wherever it may be. But in our own way, we are connected. Let's continue to fight. Thank you.